Well, I really have two jobs. One is that I'm a biochemist and researcher who's focusing on cancer research, and I run a laboratory at Cold Spring Harbour that I've been doing for over 40 years now. And we discover how our genome is inherited and the biochemistry of that. But also, my day job is that I'm president and CEO of the institution, which is a research and medical institution, an educational institution. So I spend quite a lot of my time doing administration and strategic planning and fundraising. So that's my day, and it switches. You have to be schizophrenic, and one time you're doing science and the next time you're doing fundraising or administration. So that's a typical day, 7 days a week. Well, ever since I was 11, I wanted to do medicine, and I actually worked with St John's Ambulance throughout my teenage years. And but by the time I got to university, I realized I wanted to do research. And so I pursued a research career at the University of Sydney and then at the Australian National University at the John Curtin School of Medical Research. And by my the period when I was a graduate student in Australia, I actually made some discoveries which were fairly important, and I wanted to continue doing that. And Cold Spring Harbour Laboratory was then and is now one of the best institutions in the world to do research. And so I wrote to my predecessor as president, who was Jim Watson, the Nobel laureate who discovered the structure of DNA with Francis Crick, and I told him what I wanted to do, and I thought I was going to come here for 2 years and then go back to Australia. But then stuff happened, and I'm still here 42 years later. Well, I've been very fortunate in my career because actually I was born in the year that Jim Watson and Francis Crick discovered the structure of DNA. And so I kind of grew up with DNA. And then when I was an undergraduate at Sydney University, that's when recombinant DNA was discovered. And that really changed the landscape of being able to do biology and medicine. And so I've really had my research career in the recombinant DNA era, as well as the now ability to sequence whole human genomes for about $1,000, which we do quite a lot at Cold Spring Harbour. And that has really changed the landscape enormously. When I was a graduate student, technology was very limited, but now it is just unleashed in a fantastic way, including new discoveries such as the CRISPR gene editing technology. So it's been a phenomenal period, and also an amazing advances in biology and medicine. Well, quite a lot, and I've been on the Council for the American Australian Association for a long time, and that gives me a lot of connections to Australians in New York. I've also been an advisor to the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Sydney. I'm on an advisory board for Monash University. I also am an advisor to a biotech company in Sydney, the long-term advisor to that company. And then I've chaired the reviews of quite a lot of institutes in Australia. So one way or another, I have a lot of connections with Australia. I still have family in New South Wales, in Sydney principally. And I usually, except for the last year and a half during COVID, I usually travel there once or twice a year, usually twice a year. It's one of my actually great accomplishments, I think, is not just the discoveries we've made, but the people that I have trained over the years. And I really enjoy, and that's one of the great things about science, I really enjoy mentoring and teaching early career scientists how to do science and see them go on to be incredibly successful, which a lot of my students and postdoctoral fellows have been. But so I like it so much, I actually have signed up to be a student mentor for the University of Sydney, which I do remotely. And I still teach at nearby Stony Brook University. The advice I would give to young people is, if you're going to go into science, and I think this is actually true for all fields, you really have to have a passion for it. You don't necessarily go into it to make money. You go into it because you have a passion to change the world. And sometimes it's a solitary life, it's a challenging life for one's family, which I have to thank my family for putting up with me. And but if you have a passion for doing something big and an ambition to do something big, you can do it, and opportunities will come your way, and you just have to look out for them. And so I think what I try to do is to provide those opportunities for young people, and that's what I think Advance is all about, actually, providing this type of guideline for young people to see a path for their future. Wow, that's an amazing honor. I was actually surprised to be a finalist for this award, and actually honored for it, but this is a kind of icing on the cake. You know, one of the great things about being an expat Australian is, and as I just mentioned, I've had a lot of connections to Australia, and it is a fantastic place, and I still call Australia home, as the song goes. And to have this honor, additional honor, is really unbelievable, and I think it's a real highlight to be recognized by the country that you grew up in, that you love, and also the country that I still have very, very deep connections to. So thank you very much. I'm actually deeply, deeply honored.